Today's Valentine's Day, which means I went out and bought 6 dozen roses from Costco. I thought this would be a good opportunity to share how I arrange flowers. I'm not a flower professional, never took any classes. However, this is something that I think is a lot of fun, so I thought I'd share. Here we go. Where'd my cutters go? So I thought a good thing to do is just kind of start small and work my way up to something much, much bigger. So there are a couple things that I think of when picking out flowers. Number one is color. I personally don't love a whole rainbow mix of colors. So as long as you can stick to maybe like 2, 3 primary colors, I think that's where bouquets really shine. Number two is going to be varying heights. What I've got here is some willow branches. This is going to be my height. I've got some roses. These are kind of be like my middle portion. And then I've got my foliage. And this is kind of go below the roses. And number three is going to be texture / size. You don't want to go picking out flowers that are all the exact same size. Then everything gets lost. You want to have variation in the size or variation in that texture. What does that mean? Well, my willow branches are very long, skinny. Each of these little poofs have their own little textures and it's very, very fine. With the roses, each of these blooms are going to be very, very big. Roses are really going to be the focal point of the bouquet. That's what really draws the eye. And lastly, the foliage is going to be my middle texture. It's going to help tie together the big blooms as well as the more detailed willow branches. Let's get them open. One of the first things I like to do is on these roses, just remove all these little branches. It just gets in the way and they don't look good. Personal preference. So, little guy. Or something this small, it kind of just only enough to fit maybe like 1 or 2 blooms and maybe like a little bit of foliage. Just going to take a bouquet, this guy opened, peel off some of these leaves, leafless. My 1, 2, 3 roses. And I'm going to grab something a little bit more delicate here as well. So I got one little thing of baby's breath right here. This is honestly way too much for something this small. So I'm probably just going to end up taking maybe like that much of it or so. This thing right here is a little bit small. So we're just kind of going for a top layer and a bottom layer. We have a bloom, this rose, which is a much bigger texture. And then we also have this more delicate baby's breath, which is a little bit more of a light texture. So I'm just going to grab it, put a couple of these together. And the neck of this vase is like a little bit tight. So when I sample in my hands, I'm going to want to keep it a little bit smaller, just to kind of get an idea of what it's going to look like when it actually goes into the little vase over here. So rose, 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 going from up to down. Look at it here over on the side of the table. Just make a cut right at the bottom of this vase. So about right there. And there's a small one. Something like this is good for just a small table setting. It's not really going to fill up too much of a space, but if you have an intimate table, maybe 1 or 2 people, this is perfect for that. So I'm going to take that, put it off to the side. Next up, we have our squares right here. This one's just a little bit bigger. This one's a little bit smaller, and it's got a cute little ribbon around it. But how I'm going to decorate them is going to be more or less the same. With these little squares, you can either look nice having something with a lot of the same type of flower, or you can have something that's a little bit more varied, but all the blooms need to stay a little bit closer to the rim. So I'm probably going to end up picking at least a dozen or so on this one. I've got about just shy of 2 dozen roses here. I'm thinking for this, I'm kind of just going to take all these roses, bunch them up as tight as I can, and then get the base of the flower as close to the lip of this square as I can. Now these are all roughly the same length. I'm just going to just scoop them up and just drop them straight into the square right here. With something like this, a lot of the stems are just going crisscross, so it does really help to have this ribbon around the edges to hide that mess. Something like this is also a good table setting. It is still relatively small, so it's not really going to be filling a whole area. Push that aside. Next, I want to go for something a little bit bigger. Got my roses all cleaned of their leaves. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some foliage. I'm going to take a couple of roses at a time and then just place the bottom of the bloom just right where the foliage really, really starts to come out. And then just really start to build around it. If you start having too many roses bunched together, just grab some more foliage and just toss it in there to help add some space. All right. I think this is a pretty good base, so we're just going to kind of do a test fit. Eyeball where the bottom of this would fit. Let's see how that looks. That is a good start. Because I have a little bit too much space here around the rim, I'm going to take these couple extra flowers and just put them in those empty spaces right here. Looking pretty good, but we're forgetting something. Next, I'm just going to start sticking in these willow branches until there's a good spacing and adding good height here as well. I think that looks pretty good for this one. Another combination of flowers I like doing is the roses with lilies. I think it looks really great. The nice color of the roses, the lilies are really, really a big shape. So let's get that going. I'm going to pick off the leaves of these. Just like with the roses, I was really hoping that some of these lilies would have opened up a little bit more since I bought them, but hey. So the lilies are going to be my tallest texture. So I'm going to keep these in the center And then I'll probably take about a dozen roses or so and kind of just start to build them around the lilies. I also got some eucalyptus leaves, which I think would be a very good combination with both the lilies and the roses. So I think the lilies are probably going to be the tallest one that I have here. And then I'll do the roses around that and then use the eucalyptus to kind of tie everything together. So this is a pretty good small bouquet. Line it up, trim the stems, and I'm just picking off any eucalyptus leaves that might touch the water. Just helps prevent them from rotting. And there is another little bouquet of roses and lilies. I really wish that these lilies opened up because I think that this would look really, really nice. Now for this last one, I'm kind of just going to toss everything together and just see how it looks. Now the main focus with these flowers are really just the color at the top. They're tall, they're colorful, they got some really, really good texture on them. They look amazing. The leaves don't, so I'm going to take those leaves off. Now that I have these leaves off, I'm just going to start kind of throwing them all together with what I have left. So a little bit of this stuff, some baby's breath, the roses, whatever eucalyptus I have. See how it goes. And there we go. I'm going to look at the height, cut off everything that's about at the edge. See if we can get all that. And then just because I have a couple extra willow branches, I'm just going to toss them in here. That looks pretty good. Let's take a look at how we did. Got 2, got 3, got 4, got 5. All right. Well, there you have it. If you guys like this video, leave a like. Consider getting subscribed or check out my channel for some other content. Happy Valentine's Day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.